Good afternoon, and welcome to Leadership Impact. My name is Matthew Devine, and today I want to talk about meetings. I want to talk about meetings, and I know, I hate meetings too. Your calendar is likely filled with them. You probably don't feel like you have time to do your actual work because you're stuck in somebody else's meetings and you've got them back to back all day. For me, one of the most challenging meetings I would have would be the ones where everyone on the team would be invited, everyone's grandmother would be invited, everyone's pets would be there, and a million other people would be there, and everyone's sitting around waiting while just a few people talk endlessly in circles and nothing gets decided or meaningfully accomplished during the course of the meeting. Those are the meetings that I had the most challenge with. And when you have ineffective meetings, you risk a number of things. First, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of your time, but it's a waste of a lot of people's time. It's a waste of resources that could be spent on other things. But more importantly, it's usually very frustrating. Second, you could have the wrong people in the room, or you're giving too much time to the wrong people, which may result in, again, wasted time, but also bad decisions or bad outcomes. And sometimes bad decisions get made in meetings because people are rushing to get to the next meeting. They've got a hard stop and they need to jump to another meeting, so they make a decision quickly and it's not the right one. And ultimately, maybe there's an emphasis on the wrong priorities in these meetings. Now, it's not to say that meetings are not important. You definitely have to have meetings. People have to communicate information. They have to solve problems. That all has to happen. But there needs to be a better way to have more effective meetings. So if you're looking to try to have more influence or have a greater impact, ineffective meetings are going to be undermining that ability because you're going to be wasting your time and resources on things that are not going to help you move forward. So there is a better way. And today, we're going to talk about two aspects of meetings that will help you be more productive and actually increase the influence that you have. So if you get these right, people will actually love you for it. You're going to be saving time, getting people back to the rest of their work, and it'll help you get back to the rest of your work. It'll help you reach better decisions, the right decisions, a better use of your resources, and you're also going to be building engagement, which isn't going to cause any frustrations. Okay, so there are two aspects. The first aspect is, what is the objective of the meeting? And we'll talk about that in a second. The second aspect is deciding what type of meeting you need to have. So there is the objective of the meeting, but there is also the type of meeting that you need to have. And there's 5 different types that will help you be effective. Let's start with the objective of the meeting. What is the objective of the meeting? For a meeting to work well, you need to know where you're going. I find sometimes getting into some meetings, you'll start and people will just start talking because they've got an idea in their head and they want to they need to get it out, and so they start talking, and you end up going off on tangents and off in different directions, and sometimes it's not clear where you're going. This is basically, your objective is the goalpost. It's where you want to end up at the end of the meeting. And you have to understand where you need to go, where is the outcome, so you can spend your energy moving in that direction. In order to be effective, your objective needs to be one of these 3 things. First, one objective could be to share information. Now, this is information that either you're the one running the meeting, you need to share with the audience. It could be, here's a spreadsheet with data. It could be, here's an announcement that I need to make, or maybe there's some other aspect of a project that you need to communicate. But basically, you are communicating information, so it's coming from you to the other person. Or maybe you are looking to get information that the other person that you're speaking with or the other people in the room need to share information with you, at which point you may need to ask them questions. But the goal is to get information from them. So objective number 1, or one objective to a meeting is to share information. It could be going in either direction, could be going in both directions, but understanding when you go into the meeting that the objective at the end of that meeting is to share information. Objective number 2, and to be clear, I'm listing 1, 2, and 3, and it's not like you try to do all 3. It's you have to decide between these objectives as to what your meeting is about. The second objective would be to brainstorm some kind of solution. So there's a problem that needs to be solved, and you need to work the problem. But you may not be able to get to an answer by the end of the meeting, but the goal of the meeting is to work the problem. And you're going to be raising ideas and debating different things and arguing different points and looking at charts and drawing things on a board. There may be all different aspects of solving this problem. You may actually be brainstorming and getting a whole bunch of ideas down. You could be, from an engineering perspective, you could be arguing some of the technical aspects. But the goal of brainstorming a solution is that you're working the problem. And hopefully by the end of that meeting, you will have a solution. But sometimes that's not necessarily possible. And if you don't get to an answer to the problem by the end of the meeting, then your goal at that point is to decide what your next steps are. It could be that you need more information, which means you'll schedule a meeting where you share information. It may be that you need to talk to different people. Great, schedule those meetings or have those conversations. But the objective of this meeting is to work the problem. Your third objective that could be for a meeting is to make a decision. So there is an aspect of what's going on that requires a decision to be made. Maybe you're the person who is making the decision, or maybe you need the other person to make a decision, but you can't move forward until you get that decision made. The goal is not to share, there may be some sharing of information, there may be some, other aspects, but your objective in this meeting is to get to a decision. So at the end of that time, you need to know, are you going left or are you going right? Are we going with option A or are we going with option B? And you need to know that going in, and the other parties need to know that going in as well. So if it's not one of these 3 objectives, then you have to ask yourself, do you even need to have a meeting? What is the purpose of this meeting if you're not trying to share information, you're not trying to work a specific problem, and you're not trying to make a decision? If there isn't a clear idea of what that objective is, then you need to really understand, this may need to be something different. Establishing your objective at the start of the meeting will help you keep things on track. And there will be people who will go off on tangents, and that's just natural. It's a normal thing that happens, but understanding what your objective is allows you to bring everyone back to what you're trying to achieve at that meeting. And if you achieve the objective early, you can end the meeting early. And I give you permission to end the meeting early. I've been in so many meetings where the meeting was scheduled for 30 minutes or it's been scheduled for an hour or whatever, and people feel compelled to run the clock out to the end of the meeting time because they don't realize that they have permission to end it sooner. If you achieve your objective, if the objective is achieved, if you've shared the information, you've worked the problem, you've made the decision, then end the meeting. There is not a single person that will resent you for ending that meeting sooner. So you are allowed to end the meeting early. Be the leader who is respected for respecting everyone else's time, letting them get back to work. Okay, so we've spoken about the objective of the meeting. If you can clearly identify what the objective of the meeting is and you can hold yourself to it, then you're on a good path. The second aspect to making sure you have a meeting that has impact and that you have influence with these meetings is to pick the type of meeting that you need to have. And there are 5 meetings that will help you clarify the work that needs to be done. If you pick the right meeting, it means that you can solve the problems easier and you can build the trust with your employees, which improves their engagement. So there are 5 meetings. The first is operational meetings. The second are business or project review meetings. The third are your one-on-one meetings. Your fourth is the performance management meetings. And finally, your fifth is the engagement meetings. So let's walk through each of these one by one. First are your operational meetings. These are your standard day-to-day meetings that you need to have. They're going to be scheduled throughout the day. It's going to be scheduled throughout the week. These are usually scheduled ad hoc to address whatever the issues are that are going on in the business. Of all the 5 different types of meetings, this meeting type, your standard operational meeting, is the one that really benefits from being clear on your objective. Now, if you don't have a clear objective, you don't have a meeting. The second is your business or project review meeting. And these are similar to the operational meetings, but they're focused on the nature of the business. So these are going to be regularly scheduled check-in meetings. For just a regular work, I recommend these meetings be scheduled. Usually once a month is a good frequency. But if you're doing project work, these meetings might be every week. Or if you're heading up to go live, then your update meetings may be every day or maybe multiple times a day. Now, for these meetings to be effective, you need to make sure that you are using consistent metrics. So understanding what you are measuring performance by, so that when you come to these meetings, you can get updates on very clear pieces of information. It also helps to ensure that no one's hiding behind somebody else, that they have clear performance metrics that are being reported out to the rest of the meeting. You know, when I've done project work, often we'll also include a traffic light system. Green, meaning everything's good, everything's on track, everything's on time, we're good to go. Yellow, meaning there are issues, not necessarily mission critical, but definitely things that need to be addressed. Or red, there are problems, there's mission critical issues or problems that need to be addressed. And making sure that for any of the metrics that you're reporting on, that you're giving a color code to them. Now, the objective of these meetings is to share information. So you're not problem solving, you're not making decisions in these meetings. These project review meetings the purpose of them is to share information. So you want to make sure, who is the audience to this information? It could be the whole team needs to be informed of all these issues. It could be the leadership that needs to be informed of all these issues. So understanding who that information is for, where is that information being shared to? And also, don't waste time getting into the weeds. If you encounter an issue, an item that is clearly having issues, it's either a yellow or a red, this is not the meeting to solve those problems. You'll need to have a dedicated meeting in order to get the right people in the room to solve the problems. The review meeting is simply to serve as a signpost that here are where the issues are and here's what we need to do next. If there is an issue, then establish what the next steps are. Do you need a decision made on this? Great. We'll get on a separate call, we'll make that decision. We need to solve a problem? All right, we'll get on a separate call, we'll solve the problem. The purpose of this meeting is simply to get everyone on the same page as to where we're at on the project. Don't waste anyone's time, trying to get into the weeds of any one person's issues. The goal is to share the information and let everyone move on. Your third meeting type is your one-on-one meetings. Now these are your dedicated, focused meetings with each individual employee. So you'll want to schedule these at regular intervals. My recommendation is twice per month with each and every one of your employees. Your goal as the leader is to ask 2 questions. First, what is a problem that you're currently facing? And second, how would you like me to support you? Because while a one-on-one meeting might include a variety of objectives, you may be sharing information, you may be helping them work through a problem, you may be helping make a decision for them. It could include any of those objectives. The overall goal is you want to be removing any obstacles for your employee. You want to help them get on with the rest of their work. So it's important that these meetings happen regularly, not too frequently, but regularly, so that the employee feels like you are there and you are actively supporting them, that you are giving them the time of day and you are focused on their specific issues, and that they're not getting lost in the crowd of other people who are on the team. And if you ever need to, if there's a scheduling conflict, always reschedule this meeting. Don't cancel, reschedule the meeting. You want to make sure that you are communicating to each of your employees that the one-on-one meeting you're having with them is valuable. You value the time you have with them so that they will feel important and they will feel their issues are being heard and being addressed. And this will build trust over time. And trust comes engagement. Your fourth meeting type are your performance management meetings. Now, there's different theories in the HR space when it comes to performance management in general, setting goals, following up and so forth. I hold the view that managers are accountable for the development of their employees. And this is both from ensuring that they're meeting their work objectives and staying on track with those and learning the things they need to learn to do their daily job, but also to develop them for future opportunities and future roles or expanded their capabilities. And you want to make sure that you are having regular touch points with each of your employees to address how they're developing overall. My recommendation is that these are held regularly, probably once or twice a quarter. So every couple of months or so is a decent frequency to have these meetings. And they're like a one-on-one meeting. You're only meeting with one of your employees. And your goal is to address what are the things that they need to learn in order to do the job that they're in, but also what are the areas in which they can develop further. So these would be possibly additional courses they could take, or networking opportunities, or opportunities to attend conferences to get exposed to more information. Or maybe it's an experiential piece where they get a chance to work with other people and get exposed to different kinds of work. So exploring different ways of expanding their capabilities and their knowledge. Also, you may want to look at once a quarter, maybe once a year, having an overall, what do we want to achieve for the next period? So you can set some broader goals or longer term goals for them to think about, and also give you some themes for each of your touch points with them from a performance management perspective. And the important thing is that you're not talking about the day-to-day business stuff. This is about their development. So try to really move away from any kind of update meetings. This is about their development. You can have a separate meeting where you have your problem solving and you focus on the individual day-to-day work stuff that they're dealing with, but the performance management meeting is about their development. The fifth type of meeting are your engagement meetings. And these meetings I don't see being held very often. The engagement meeting, the purpose of this is to allow your team members to connect as people and build friendships and build the relationships that they need at work. If they're only in work-related meetings, they're never going to build that trust. They're never going to build that friendship. They're going to build familiarity, sure, but they're not going to really connect as people. The goal of these meetings is not to do any work. I worked on one company where it was a strict rule. Hey, we were not to talk about business during these meetings. If everyone's in the office, great. You can go for a team lunch. That would be a great engagement meeting. Or maybe go for coffee, for instance, a great engagement meeting. You want to create a space in which people can interact casually. Now, I also recognize that more and more people are working virtually, so you may not be able to have everyone in the office or in the office all at the same time, so you may need to do this online. It's not as ideal, but sometimes that's what you need to do. The thing is you want to get everyone there. And this is an unstructured meeting. You can let the employees decide what they want to talk about. In some cases, maybe you ask different employees to come up with an agenda, but it doesn't have to be, ideally less structured, the better, because the goal is to have people interact organically with one another. times that when I've done this, we've had specific topics. Like, for instance, we had one meeting where it was story time, where everyone told a story about themselves. We did another one where it was like vacations. What is your ideal vacation? We talked about vacation destinations. We did games one time. I've done one where it was like a scavenger hunt and everyone went and grabbed stuff and brought them back and shared stories around them. So it could be any number of things. The goal is, again, to allow people to interact more naturally. As the leader of these engagement meetings, you want to make sure that you're creating an environment where everyone feels included. Now, everyone doesn't have to be actively participating. There's going to be the extroverts in the group who will be talking and talking and talking, and the introverts who will be quietly sitting back and enjoying and watching and absorbing the conversation from the sides. That's fine. That's great. That's great. You don't have to force interactions, but you also want to make sure people feel included, and that the topics aren't inadvertently making people feel like they're not part of the team. And I'll give you an example. I was working with one organization where we actually had one of our new employees who was new to Canada. She was, she had only arrived in Canada a few months before. So there were a lot of cultural things that she wasn't familiar with from a Western perspective or a Canadian perspective. And we needed to make sure we spent a bit of extra time to ensure that she was aware of what we were talking about and that we were sharing the context and the references and so forth, so that she felt like she could appreciate the jokes and the other ideas that were being shared. I recommend having one of these engagement meetings every week. If you can schedule a 1-hour engagement meeting with your team every single week, that will start to build the trust and relationships over time. It also gives people a chance to just have fun. If they're spending all their week in doing the work and, focused on the difficult challenge day to day, give them a break. Give them this space where they can relax and not have to think about work. So in summary, 5 meeting types. You have your operational meetings. These are your day-to-day standard meetings. Really get focused on the objective. Meeting number 2 are your business or project review meetings. These are done on a regular basis, but the goal is your objective is to share information. If it's about anything else, schedule separate meetings. Don't waste anyone's time. This is a sharing meeting. Meeting number 3 are your one-on-one meetings. You could have a number of different objectives with these meetings, but the goal is to remove any obstacles your employees facing. Remember, you're asking 2 questions. What is the problem they are currently facing, and how can you help support them? Meeting number 4 are your performance management meetings. The goal of this meeting is to help develop your individual employees, whether it's development on the job or development for broader roles. And finally, meeting number 5 are your engagement meetings. Unstructured meetings, simply to have fun and bring the team together and build that engagement. And your objectives. If you don't have an objective to the meeting, then question whether or not you need a meeting. Your 3 objectives are to share information, brainstorm a solution where you work the problem, or make a decision. If it's not one of those 3 things, then you need to get clear on what the meeting is actually going to be about. So that wraps up my topic on engaged meetings. If you're able to schedule these meetings and be consistent around these meetings, if you're able to set the objectives and be clear on your objectives, you're going to be more effective in achieving what needs to be done in those meetings. You're not going to waste people's time. People are going to like you because you are getting stuff done and letting them get back to work. And that's going to build trust and build engagement. So the questions I have for you are, what meetings do you hold that I haven't already talked about? Maybe there's stuff that I can learn. What are your meetings? And are there things that work for you to get meetings done effectively and efficiently? So send me a message, let me know. And that wraps up the topic for this week. So thank you for attending. My name is Matthew Devine. I'm an executive coach based in Toronto, Canada. And my mission is to help leaders rediscover their voice and confidence so they can lead with authority and have greater impact. And today, one of the best ways to do that is run better meetings. So until next week, this is Leadership Impact. So thank you for your attention.